The silence of a telephone is the loudest sound in the world. It starts in your stomach, a cold, heavy stone that turns over every time you check the screen and see nothing. No missed call, no message, just your own desperate reflection in the black glass. You feel small. You feel invisible. I am sitting in my old study. The sun is hitting the dust floating in the air. It smells like dried lavender and old paper in here. Listen. This metronome has been ticking on my desk for 40 years. It measures time that I cannot get back. I am 100 years old. I spent 4 decades as a psychologist, and I spent 18 years waiting for a phone call that never came. I need you to stop what you are doing. You are trying to explain your value to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. You think if you just find the right words, they will respect you. That is the lie that cost me my son. Sit down. We need to talk. I was the expert. Look at these walls, framed degrees, certifications. For 43 years, people paid $300 an hour to sit on that leather couch and ask me how to fix their lives. I wrote papers on family dynamics. I gave lectures on healthy boundaries. I was a fraud. Inside my own home, I was not a mother. I was a defense attorney. I worshipped the explanation. That was my drug. I believed, truly believed, that if I could just explain my intentions clearly enough, I could control how people felt about me. When my son, Robert, would get quiet, I would panic. I would fill the air with words. I treated every dinner conversation like a courtroom trial. I didn't mean it like that, Robert. I was just trying to help. You see, the reason I criticized your wife's cooking is because I care about your health. Let me explain my perspective. Let me give you the context. Talk, talk, talk. I was addicted to being right. I thought respect was something you could negotiate. I thought if I stacked up enough logic, enough evidence, enough words, he would have to look at me and say, "You're right, Mom. Thank you." It was exhausting. My throat was always dry. My mind was always racing, rehearsing the next argument while he was still speaking. I never heard him. I only heard my own anxiety screaming that I was being misunderstood. I was fighting a war against his perception of me. I fired words like bullets. I thought I was building a bridge to him, but I was building a wall. I was right. I was so logical. I had all the facts. And I was completely, utterly unbearable. It happened 18 years ago, May 12th. I remember the date because it was the last day I heard my son's voice. Robert called me in the afternoon. He sounded calm, too calm. That is something I learned in my practice. Anger is loud, but resolve is quiet. He said, "Mom, I need you to stop making comments about Sarah. It's hurting our marriage. If you can't be kind to her, you can't be part of our lives." It was a boundary, clear, simple, fair. Any wise woman would have said, "I am sorry, I will stop." But I was not a wise woman. I was a right woman. I was a psychologist. I was the mother. My ego reared up like a cobra. I felt attacked. I felt misunderstood. So I did what I always did. I explained. I said, "Robert, you are being dramatic. I only mentioned her spending habits because I know you are trying to save for a house. I am looking out for you. Why can't you see that? I am doing this out of love." I didn't stop there. I kept going. I pulled up evidence from 3 Christmases ago. I analyzed his psychology. I told him he was being manipulated. I talked for 5 minutes straight without taking a breath. I was winning the argument. I was dismantling his logic point by point. I felt powerful. Then there was a pause on the line. I waited for him to argue back. I was ready for the fight. But he didn't fight. He whispered, "You just can't help yourself, can you?" And then, click, the line went dead. I sat there in this chair, holding the receiver. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. a harsh electric hum. I thought, he'll call back. He needs me. I'm his mother. I waited an hour. I waited a week. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I sent letters. They came back unopened. The silence began to fill this house like water. At first, it was angry silence. Then it became a cold, heavy silence. I spent the first year angry. How dare he treat me this way after all I sacrificed? I spent the second year bargaining. If he calls, I will be better. I spent the next 16 years realizing that I had traded my son for the satisfaction of being right. I won the argument, didn't I? I proved my point. I justified my behavior perfectly. And now I sit here alone. The metronome kept ticking. Click, click, click. 18 years of ticks. Millions of seconds where I could have just said, I'm sorry. But instead, I chose to explain why I didn't need to be. My logic kept me warm at night. My correctness kept me company at Christmas. No, that is a lie. Being right is the coldest thing in the world. It took me 5 years to stop reaching for the phone. It took me another 5 to realize that the silence wasn't a punishment. It was a classroom. I had to learn how to live without an audience. One morning, about 10 years ago, my new nurse came in. She was a sharp woman, impatient. She looked at my bookshelf, cluttered with my journals, and said, "You are hoarding too much paper, doctor. It's a fire hazard. I'm going to throw this stack out." The old me felt the familiar fire. The justifier woke up. I opened my mouth to say, "Excuse me? These are clinical notes from 1982. They are historical documents. You have no right to touch my intellectual property. Let me explain the filing system to you." But then I looked at the metronome. Click, click. I remembered the dial tone. I closed my mouth. I took a breath. I looked her in the eye and I said nothing. I just watched her. I let the silence hang in the air between us. It was heavy, uncomfortable. She reached for the papers but stopped. She looked at me. I didn't look away. I didn't scowl. I didn't smile. I just existed, completely still. She fidgeted. She cleared her throat. I suppose I can just move them to the lower shelf? I nodded once. That will be fine. And she did it. She moved them with care. When she left the room, she whispered, "Have a good afternoon, ma'am." Ma'am, not sweetie, not dear. Ma'am. I sat back in this chair, and I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. I felt light. I hadn't explained anything. I hadn't defended my intelligence. I hadn't offered a lecture. I simply held my ground and let her sit in her own discomfort. That was the beginning of my new life. I call it the quiet garden. Now, my days are slow, beautifully, luxuriously slow. I wake up when the sun hits the floorboards. I don't rush. There is no one to impress. I make my tea, Earl Grey. I watch the steam rise from the cup. It curls into shapes that dissolve in the light. When I go to the market and the cashier is rude, I don't correct him. I don't tell him, "I am a customer. You should be polite." I simply look at him, pay, and walk away. I leave him with his bad mood. It is not my luggage to carry. I used to think intimacy was about talking. Now I find intimacy in the small things. I have a neighbor, Mr. Henderson. He comes over on Tuesdays. We sit on the porch. Sometimes we don't say a word for 20 minutes. We just watch the birds at the feeder. The red cardinal lands. It cracks a seed. It flies away. In that silence, there is no judgment. There is no, "Am I doing this right?" There is no, "Does he understand me?" There is just presence. I have learned that no is a complete sentence. I have learned that "I see" is the most powerful response to an insult. I have learned that if I have to shout to be heard, I am in the wrong room. I have stopped trying to control the narrative. When people misunderstand me now, and they do, I let them. She's a bit eccentric. Fine. She's difficult. Okay. She's stubborn, if you say so. I don't correct the record. I am too busy enjoying my tea. I have reclaimed my energy. All that power I wasted on arguments, I use it now to look at the sky. I use it to read my books. I use it to forgive myself. I am alone in this house, yes, but I am not lonely. When you stop begging for respect, you start respecting yourself. And when you respect yourself, the air in the room changes. People feel it. They stop interrupting. They stop crossing the line because they know there is a door, and they know I am not afraid to walk through it. My son is gone. That is a scar that will never fade. I touch it every day. But because of him, I found this peace. I finally learned the lesson he tried to teach me 18 years ago. Love is not a debate, and dignity is not a negotiation. I reach out and catch the pendulum of the metronome. The clicking stops instantly. The silence is absolute. I am stopping the clock, because your time is running out too. You don't need to lose your son to learn this. Right now you are drafting a text message in your head. You are planning a speech to convince someone that you matter. You are rehearsing your defense. Stop. If you have to explain your value, they cannot afford you. If you have to beg for respect, it will be fake when they give it to you. You cannot change people. You can only change your position. The next time someone disrespects you, do not fight. Do not explain. Do not react. Look at them. Let the silence become uncomfortable. And then turn around. Walking away is the only argument you will ever win. I am 100 years old. My house is quiet. But my dignity is loud. Don't wait until you are my age to stop explaining yourself. Tell me in the comments, who is the one person you need to stop explaining yourself to? Write their name or just write me. Don't wait. I know exactly what you are doing right now. You are rereading that text message. You are rehearsing the conversation in the shower. You are laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, building a dossier of evidence to prove that you are a good person, that you didn't mean it, that they are the ones who don't understand. You are exhausted, aren't you? Your chest feels tight because you are carrying the weight of an entire courtroom in your heart. Listen to me. Look at my eyes. You are acting as if you have forever to be understood. You don't. The world tells you that communication is key. That is a half-truth. The brutal reality I learned after a century of life is this. Over-communication is a trauma response. When you explain yourself to people who do not want to hear you, you are not building a bridge. You are digging your own grave. You are trading the precious, finite minutes of your life for the cheap, temporary high of being right. I traded 18 years of my son's life for my pride. I won every argument, and I lost the only person who mattered. Do not let your ego write a check that your heart cannot cash. Here is what you must do, today, not tomorrow. Open that draft you have been writing, the one where you defend your actions. Delete it. The next time they provoke you, do not take the bait. Take a breath. Say this, I hear you, and then silence. Reclaiming your energy is better than reclaiming your reputation. Do not wait until the line goes dead to learn this, because the only thing worse than being misunderstood is being alone with your correctness.